Pikmin is a video game series, so naturally the Pikmin series has several video games.
What?
I decided it would be fun to rank all of the games in the Pikmin series, but how many games are there? There are 4 mainline games, I could just rank those, but no, too short, can't get that past the ad revenue collection department. Let's include the spin-offs then, but where do we draw the line? Do we just count Hey Pikmin and Pikmin Bloom, or do we also include Pikmin Adventure, which isn't technically its own game? Or does Pikmin Finder count, a web game made by the same people who made Pikmin Bloom? Where do we draw the line for what counts as a Pikmin game and what doesn't? Eventually, I decided to just not draw any lines at all. Let's rank everything that could possibly be counted as an entry to the Pikmin series and is also a game. Now, despite what I said 5 seconds ago, I am drawing a few lines. First of all, it has to be a game. I'm not counting stuff like trivia quizzes because I don't think those really count, but this is a really generous bar to qualify for. The second rule is that I can actually play it. There's stuff like Pikmin Space Force which could count as a game, but has been lost media for around a similar amount of time that the famous Luigi render has existed for. It obviously doesn't count because I can't just go, oh yeah, I bet that game would be really fun, first place. Final rule is that it has to be affiliated with Nintendo themselves in some way. I won't be ranking any ROM hacks, and I won't be ranking Pikmin Clicker on Scratch because Shiggy Miggy had nothing to do with it. No, Pikmin, you can't not increase the price of the upgrades after someone buys them, you're crashing the fucking economy! Counting up the games with those rules, we have 19 Pikmin games. If we could theoretically play them all, it would be 22, but we cannot, so it's merely 19 now. There is also the separate releases of the games, such as the Wii and Switch ports of Pikmin 1. I don't feel like any of the ports are drastically different enough to warrant ranking them separately, but I will briefly bring them up and which versions I prefer while discussing the mainline games. That bumps the number up to 26 games, though I'll keep the list at 19 because it would start getting confusing pretty quick. The list will also be going from worst to best. You've probably seen people rank the Pikmin games before, but have you seen anyone rank every Pikmin game? Didn't think so. For more world record shattering content, subscribe as you get high quality Pikmin videos weekly. And as a disclaimer, this is my personal opinion. I did not survey every person in the world who has played Pikmin 3 Deluxe Jigsaw Puzzle just so I could objectively rank it. No, it's based on what I thought of it. You can be as mean as you want about it in the comment section, I won't mind. Alright, at number 19, we have a game so gobsmackingly bad you might explode into a billion pieces after witnessing it. This game is Pikmin Counting. Okay, well I lied, it's not gobsmackingly bad, it's pretty unnotable. This is technically the newest entry in the Pikmin series, and it's a Japanese mobile web game which was released last year with little fanfare. To even play it at all, you need to make a Nintendo account. Okay. I had to make a new account because I didn't remember my details, and I was worried after making it that Chud Tendo was going to go, oh, actually, only Japanese accounts can play this game, not Paddy's. But I was thankfully able to play it, but even if I wasn't able to, I could have just watched a video on YouTube about it and gotten the same experience, as this game is bare bones. Okay, so for the entire game, you press this whistle, have children yell numbers at you in Japanese, watch a cutscene, repeat. You can also go to a screen where it individually counts up all of the Pikmin. This game may not be enjoyable to you if you're over the age of 0. I mean, the cutscenes are cute and it has nice animations, but for the whole game, I was just kinda bored. And there's so little here that I can't really rank it highly, I got nothing out of it. I mean, it's not bad, but like, it's a game where you just count. I can't exactly go on a big why Pikmin counting is a goddamn god-awful adult humor penis hell rant, because that would be like screaming at a Sesame Street episode, and there's not much to even say here. The last thing I have to discuss is that I find Nintendo targeting really younger kids in Pikmin's recent advertisements kinda strange. I'm not saying Pikmin is for fucking alpha male big boys, but this is clearly targeted towards like 5-year-olds, and I don't think they can play Pikmin properly and fully enjoy it. It's kind of game you'd have to be at least like 10 to grasp. I had Pikmin 1 and 2 as a young kid, and it was like the only games I had as a kid that I just couldn't play properly. It's much harder to comprehend compared to like Mario, which I could play. I don't know, maybe I was just stupid as a young child. Okay, well at number 18, 17, and 16 we have the Pikmin Jigsaw Puzzles. I meant it when I said every game. These are web games available on Play Nintendo. I boot up the Play Nintendo website and get greeted with this. It looks like the Weezer album except the Weezer dog got in the way, and why are they so fucking crusty? There's 3 of these jigsaw puzzles, the Hey Pikmin puzzle, the Pikmin 3 Deluxe puzzle, and the Pikmin 4 puzzle. These are essentially the exact same game. All the programmer had to do was change the PNG for them and then spend the next 8 hours at work looking like this. If I had to criticize them, there's no music or sound effects, so it's kinda miserable doing them. Couldn't even add a sound effect for when I click a piece together. Like, come on. Ranking these separately is just going to be based on how much I like the image because they're the same game otherwise, which is why I bundle them together. Pikmin 4 is the last place because the tree Pikmin here don't have any confidence in themselves at all and it drags the whole box art down. Look at Pikmin 2 Pikmin, look at Pikmin 3 Pikmin. They exude a raw, confident energy. These tree numbnuts look like they walked in on you stroking your Snagris. Pikmin 3 Deluxe Jigsaw Puzzle is second place because it looks cooler. These two guys are fucking up again, but Blue Pikmin saved it a little. And Hey Pikmin is first place because this image is just raw. At number 15 and 14 we have more Play Nintendo classics, which are the memory match games known as Pikmin Pairs and Eek Enemies. These are yet again really simple, it's a memory match. This is only higher than the Jigsaw Puzzle because I found it slightly more fun, but these aren't exactly riveting experiences, especially because yet again there is no music or sound effects. It's a memory match. If you don't know what these are, I'd be absolutely befuddled, and these games are as simple as they look. You have to match the pairs, and if you match every pair, you win a pair of pairs. I prefer looking at the enemies, so Eek Enemies is ranked higher, but they are bundled together like the Jigsaw Puzzles because yet again, they're all the same game really. Moving on to something more interesting at number 13, we have Photos with Pikmin, a Japanese Pikmin game where you take photos with Pikmin. I did play this one, but I don't know how to capture footage on a 3DS, so you're gonna have to take my word on me playing it. And don't ask how I played a Japanese exclusive on my European 3DS while they're around. This is another one that pushes the definition of game, but for what it is, it's charming enough. You'd get the cards via purchasing eShop vouchers in Japan, but I obviously don't have the cards, so I had to resort to pictures on my phone. It's pretty charming and had good model quality for the 3DS, but this is really something you goof around with for 10 minutes and never use again. I mean, I got more out of it compared to Pikmin 3 Deluxe Jigsaw Puzzle, and I don't have any complaints, but still rather small and isn't really worth jumping through the hoops and hurdles to play it nowadays. At number 12, we have Pikmin Flippin'. I forgot about this game from my Strange Pikmin Games video, but it is pretty neat. It was a part of Camp Hyrule, which was this weird internet summer camp thing Nintendo ran where you could sign up during August and be able to play games, chat, and win prizes on this website. It ran from 1995 to 2007. Pretty interesting, but we're only here for Pikmin. Pikmin Flipping was one of the games on this website and it's strangely fun. The premise is that you flip over tokens, but if you flip over a dwarf Bulborb, you lose. You get points based on what you flip over, and if you get 20 flips in a row, you get to keep going on a new slice. It sounds like absolute horseshit, but it's weirdly enjoyable despite the questionable gameplay loop. Kind of hard to explain why it's fun, you just have to play it for yourself, and it has been thankfully archived. There's a few weird things about it. It starts with this ominous inspired by Pikmin 2 screen, and I think the person who made this knows nothing about Pikmin. It calls the Bulborbs monsters, which is just off, and yeah, that's a Mario noise. It's better than no noise, I'll give you that. It does kind of start wearing off its welcome after a few minutes, especially when you figure out the Bulborb basically only ever spawns in the top 2 rows. This probably could have benefited from deeper gameplay mechanics, which I know sounds fucking ridiculous, but what we have here is basically just gambling. It would have been more fun if it was something akin to like Minesweeper. At number 11 we have Pikmin Finder. This was made by Niantic, the developers of Pikmin Bloom, and is an AR web game. The stars actually aligned for this one as I got a phone that was able to run it and I decided to give it a go. And only a short period after that the game got shut down, so yeah, you can't play it anymore. The AR makes this a pretty unique experience, but isn't the most in-depth game ever. You are in a gameplay loop of growing up Pikmin and collecting treasures, and there's actually a bit of grind to get all the treasures. And it's not really a fun grind either due to the simplicity of the gameplay. Similarly to Photos with Pikmin, this one is mostly novel, but does have a lot more meat to it. I would recommend giving it a spin, if you could actually play it. At number 10, 9, and 8 we have the e-reader games. The Japanese version of Pikmin 2 supported the e-reader, which was a rather unsuccessful add-on to the GBA that lets you scan cards to unlock things in games, such as new levels in Mario Tree. Japanese Pikmin 2 lets you access 3 separate minigames that are held within Pikmin 2. Most Pikmin fans haven't played these because it's either you spend a lot of money to access them and probably end up recreating the plot of Pikmin 2 in the process, or you go through a bunch of emulation wizardry. These are the last 3 kind of small side games, and they are definitely the best of them. At number 10 we have Connecting Pikmin, which I just found alright. The goal is to swap around pieces of a cave so the Pikmin can reach the ship without getting harmed. Didn't find the gameplay of this one too fun, and it's also kind of an eyesore to look at for me. At number 9 is Marching Pikmin, where you move a group of Pikmin around to try and guide them to a treasure without any of them getting killed. Simple concept and was pretty fun, kind of remind me of Fireboy and Lava Girl. Finally, at number 8, we have plucking Pikmin, and I found this one to be the most enjoyable. You control a captain and have to manage a limited amount of space to try and pluck all of the Pikmin, and when the Pikmin are plucked, they serve as walls. Your goal is to pluck every single Pikmin while trying not to run out of space. They keep their traits from the base game, and yellow Pikmin get plucked farther. This one is fun, and all these can actually be quite tricky, and it's satisfying to figure out the solutions. If you can figure out how to do it, I'd actually recommend playing these, especially if you like puzzle games. We're at number 7 now, and we are officially at the major releases. These games are not obscure, unlike stuff like Pikmin Flippin'. For this place, it was between Hey Pikmin and Pikmin Bloom, two games I kind of feel equally about. I wouldn't describe either as really bad, but they're both mild games. Eventually, I decided to give the spot to Pikmin Bloom. This might be one of my more controversial opinions in this video, but this game was never really for me. Now, I wouldn't dismiss this game entirely. If you like casual mobile games, I would actually recommend this. Watching the Pikmin is cute, and it does serve as a nice pedometer, but that's really all there is to it. My biggest gripe is the game feels way too pushy with the microtransactions and forced caps. You play for like a day and it already feels like they're heavily pushing you to spend money, and that's why I stopped playing. What good is pedometer when it starts nagging me for my wallet during the walk? If you think the Pikmin are cute, I'd probably recommend this because you basically just get to play with Pikmin and watch them dress up in outfits. Strangely, it's also been 2 years since Ice Pikmin have been revealed, and almost 2 years since Glow Pikmin have been revealed, and they are still not present in Pikmin Bloom, which is just weird. This doesn't affect the game's ranking at all, I just thought I would bring it up because why aren't they here? We're having a Pikmin 4 release situation for fucking Ice and Glow Pikmin in a mobile game. Also on the topic of this game's microtransactions, Niantic, who are the original developers of this game, were recently bought out by a company known as Scopely, who are owned by the Saudi Arabian government, so Pikmin Bloom is technically property of the country of Saudi Arabia now. Scopely has also been known to bloat games with microtransactions and pay-to-win features. So I wouldn't be surprised if the game gets actively worse in years to come, which is a shame. It's not my cup of tea, but I'm not plotting for its downfall, and I don't want to see it turn into pay-to-win slop for the people that actually enjoy it. Moving on, at number 6, we have Hey Pikmin. Nobody really cares about this game anymore, but back when it was released, it would be described with the same adjectives used to detail a war crime. With the reputation this game had, you would assume it's absolutely awful, but I would say it's definitely overhated. It's not a bad game, but for as much as I'd like to tell you it's actually a great game that we've been sleeping on, that would be a lie. It's just an okay game, and that's probably the worst thing about it. A Pikmin spin-off has a lot of potential. I can excuse Pikmin Bloom for not being too faithful, as it is a mobile game, but on an actual Nintendo console, or as I like to call them, Pikmin machines, I'd expect a lot more. The biggest issue is Hey Pikmin is just a generic side-scroller on a console that's already drowning in them, and it doesn't really have anything to do with Pikmin in the core gameplay loop. I don't think a 2D Pikmin game like this is a bad idea, but the issue is that it just isn't really exploring the concept of a 2D Pikmin game. This is just a really generic 2D side-scroller with a Pikmin theming. It doesn't do anything wrong really, it's just really stereotypical and doesn't do anything that good either. You can play the first few levels and you basically played the whole game. It doesn't evolve much difficulty-wise, the puzzles are really easy even in the final world. It has its moments, it has some cool boss fights and enemies, really good soundtrack and a charming visual style, but if you've never played it, you have not missed out on much. It's kind of a forgotten game now that only occasionally gets brought up, and I think that's a fair reputation. I don't think it deserves the ire of everyone it once had. It made more sense back then because it was still kind of up in the air if we would get Pikmin 4, and this released around the same time as Chibi Robo Ziplash and other bad spin-offs, where occasionally the devs of some of those games said, "Oh hello fans of the franchise Hebus Grebus. If you do not buy the new 3DS game Hebus Grebus Yahtzee, we're never making a Hebus Grebus game again. Fuck you." So Hey Pikmin just kinda got that reputation tacked onto it, but in hindsight, Hey Pikmin is an okay game. The biggest issue with it is that it's just way too by the books and doesn't feel like a Pikmin game or a Pikmin spin-off, and the overall gameplay loop gets stale pretty quickly. At number 5 we have the best Pikmin spin-off by a long shot, and that is Pikmin Adventure. This was a minigame featured in Nintendo Land, and despite being a minigame, this game actually has a good amount of meat to it and is universally praised. Nobody talks ill of Pikmin Adventure. I'll have to give this game its own video at some point, especially because people really want me to. Someone showed up on my door yesterday asking for it. It's more of an action-focused Pikmin game. You either play as the captain or Pikmin and run around beating up random creatures. The levels are all well designed and there's a good amount of challenge. They'll occasionally throw in a strict time limit and other stuff, and there's also some really unique enemies and bosses in this game, especially the bosses. The Bladed Beeb is just fucking epic, look at him. I would not mind at all if some of these guys returned, and it's not even just looks either, they're fun to fight. It's not too in-depth and has simple to grasp gameplay, but it's definitely more complex and has more content than it really had to have, considering this is a part of a multi-game package. Not to mention the gameplay loop is just way more fun than Hey Pikmin. If you have Nintendo Land and a Wii U lying around, I'd highly recommend playing this one if you haven't already. It's really fun. I guess the one thing to be wary of is that this game can actually be deceptively difficult, especially for its post-game. If you have ever fought the Greater Studded Beeb or Monochromatic Pinchipede, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The water rate checks under his bed every night for these guys. We're onto the mainline games now. We've done all of the spin-offs, we've done all the bizarre web games, so now it's on to the big boy games. Unfortunately, picking out my least favorite wasn't difficult. Pikmin 4. For me, Pikmin 4 is like a 6 out of 10 game, but it really didn't have to be. Pikmin 4 is probably the most polarizing game in the series. Fucking Pikmin 2 can't have anything nowadays. I see the potential for an amazing game here, but it just does so many frankly bad choices that drag it down so much. I'd say the other 3 Pikmin games are kinda like wine, where you grow to appreciate them every single playthrough. And this one is milk, where it's great the first time and just takes a nosedive the second playthrough. The main campaign is just overall the worst thing about it because it's a mess. Hard to replay because the first few hours are just boring. There's the tree type limit, which is just one of the most baffling things I've seen introduced in any game ever, and it drags down every level. They just took a large bite out of the strategy from the strategy game and just give you the solution for every level. That's just not fun. It's like if the Pikmin 3 Deluxe jigsaw puzzle solved itself and then asked you to put the pieces together. The enemy layouts are often bland, every enemy is socially distancing from each other, and the enemies themselves are way too weak. Which is pretty detrimental considering this game focuses on combat much more compared to games like Pikmin 1 and 3. Ochi is just poorly implemented, there's constant roadblocks everywhere, it's fucking impossible to split up the captains, and he's just too strong, especially with Ice Pikmin. It's like you reach level 100 10 minutes into the game and the game never adjusts for us. Even smaller things like the writing and music just aren't up to scratch. It's a death by 1,000 paper cuts games. All of the issues just concatenate into a pretty bad experience, and the sad thing is most of these issues are really fixable. And some of these just shouldn't have happened in the first place. You don't even have to look at different Pikmin games to see an example of better design, because the side mode in Pikmin 4, Olimar's Shipwrecked Tale, patches up a good amount of these issues. Not even all of them, but the difference in overall quality here is substantial. It's not like Pikmin 4 is purely bad or even a bad game. As I just mentioned, Olimar's Shipwrecked Tale is absolutely great and really replayable. The Piclopedia got a big upgrade and you can engage in combat or just fucking airstrike any enemy you want to now. This is probably one of the most visually impressive games released for the Nintendo Switch, and I'm surprised the console doesn't just fucking explode trying to run it. And there are also some really great Dandori missions, areas, and caves in here. I don't think they were fully out of touch as shown by stuff like this, but it sure felt like it for most of the main campaign, as there's a lot of truly baffling game design choices made in this. And when you're trying to just enjoy some of the good content, these issues just keep rearing their ugly heads out. Stuff like the tree type limit and auto lock-on felt like they were trying to appeal to people who wouldn't even like Pikmin in the first place. The game is at its best when it's not being weighed down by itself. I think this game could have really benefited from stuff like a new game plus and more options for controls and difficulty. This wouldn't fix every issue, but it would fix a good few of them. And it's not like these would be really hard to implement either. Anyways, at number 3 we have Pikmin 3. Really good game. This one's a bit controversial, but I still think the overall experience is great, even with some of the game's shortcomings. The big appeal of this game is the tree captains and the go here functions, and this majorly improved upon Pikmin 2's captain system, where it could be difficult to use both captains efficiently. For a game made in 2013, it still is very graphically impressive. Some people actually prefer this game's graphics to Pikmin 4's, and the soundtrack is top notch as well. I'd say this game's two biggest shortcomings are the two dreaded L's, linearity and length. A lot of the areas and the general flow of the game can be pretty linear, which kinda takes away from the multitasking elements that were introduced with the captains and go here functionality. Then when the game starts going away from this linearity and you unlock blue Pikmin, it just kind of ends with the abruptness of a farce. There was a pretty big that's it reaction when the game came out because it is weirdly paced and just kind of ends too soon. I don't know if it is, but the main campaign definitely feels slightly shorter than Pikmin 1, and that's not even a long game in the first place. There was a whole area cut from the game seemingly late into development as well, and yeah, the overall game does feel like it has something missing from it. Blue Pikmin have almost nothing to do in this game. If the game was fluffed up a little, it would definitely majorly elevate it, but aside from the linearity and length issues, this game is still really fun, and probably the best entry point for beginners to Pikmin. It's similar to Pikmin 1, but the reason Pikmin 1 is higher is because Pikmin 1 edges it out slightly in everything except AI side content and controls. They're not majorly far apart, but there are aspects in Pikmin 1 that I'll get to, which is why I prefer Pikmin 1. I used to actually favour Pikmin 3, and I can see why other people would as well. It's easier to control, especially back when Pikmin 1 didn't have the Switch port. The areas here are all really fun, and this game has a great enemy roster, even if some enemies tend to be on the weak side. I don't think it's as egregious as Pikmin 4 because this game not only has better enemy positioning and usage, it's also more suited for weaker enemies, as there is still the challenge of planning and multitasking. And while I still would prefer bulkier enemies that pose a threat, it's not as big as a deal compared to something like Pikmin 4, where that game is going for a game style that prioritizes combat and lessens planning and multitasking. Yet the enemies are extremely frail and not really cleverly placed, so it has a bigger impact there. There's also the side content such as Mission Mode and Bingo Bell, which both get sleeped on despite being pretty spectacular. These two modes alone made me consider putting it above Pikmin 1, and it definitely does elevate Pikmin 3 by a good bit. This game was released for both Wii U and Switch, with there being a good few changes, and there is a camp of people who prefer the Wii U version. I do think the Wii U version made some better choices, but overall I slightly prefer the Switch version, mainly due to it being quicker to replay. At number 2 we have Pikmin 1. This used to be my least favorite by a good amount, but I think around 2022-2023 I started becoming a true Pikmin 1 connoisseur, and now I think it is one of the best Pikmin experiences. What set me off for a while and what set a lot of people off is the overall jank of this game. The AI is definitely questionable in some places, but if you get used to it, it slowly becomes less of an issue. This is still a flaw because you shouldn't really have to get used to weird AI, and a lot of these weird AI decisions are actually fully intentional. But aside from the overall jank of this game and the occasional glitches, I generally don't have any complaints with this game. It is really well designed. The maps are really fun to play through and kind of have the golden standard of challenge here, where the difficulty scales with how good you are at the game. If you're new, the Fars de Hope on Day 2 serves as a simple area where you can learn how enemies work and stuff, kind of like a continuation of the tutorial. But on repeat playthroughs, as your goals increase, the area gets harder to play through despite nothing changing except your skill level. This is a design philosophy some newer games have forgotten about, where sometimes they just have a whole giant area serve as a tutorial, and there's nothing enjoyable about it for repeat playthroughs. The areas here are all really well designed. The game is short, but it's paced better than Pikmin 3, and I can't excuse it more because it's the first Pikmin game. Despite the enemy roster being small, it's really good. The enemies pose a threat and you have to plan around them during your day. And this game introduces some of the most iconic enemies in the series. In fact, I don't think there is a single dud here. One thing I really like about Pikmin 1 that no other Pikmin game has is the kind of nonchalant atmosphere it has. Boss fights will just be part of the environments. The game will drop stuff like the smoky prog on you and just say nothing. It doesn't need to prove anything to you and lets the game speak for itself, which started getting abandoned as early as Pikmin 2. This is the game where you also play as Olimar, who is obviously the goat of Pikmin. Having the main character just be some random truck driver who misses his family is a genius idea because it makes the world feel more dangerous, and adds a bit of humbleness to Olimar's solo journey of trying to get back to his home planet. It also feels like he has a connection with the Pikmin instead of the Pikmin just being tools. They're both in a really bad spot at the start of the game, and they both help each other out in order to save each other. A story, especially one as simple as this, shouldn't really affect gameplay, but this one kind of glues the whole game together in my opinion. For this being the first Pikmin game, it is really good, and they basically nailed the Pikmin formula here. This game had 3 versions on GameCube, Wii, and Switch, and for me personally, I rank them Wii, Switch, GameCube. Though I would highly recommend playing the Switch version if you are new to the series, as I really only prefer the GameCube version because of a few control differences and Stockholm Syndrome. The Wii one is the worst one because it has a bunch of weird glitches and oversights, so the game is still good, and I think it depends on region as well. In Europe, the port is less glitchy overall and patches some weird mistakes, while it's kind of a mess in Northern America. There is technically also a Windows port, yes, an official one, but it's just the GameCube version running on Windows with a few debug tools, so it doesn't exactly count. And finally, at number 1, we have Pikmin 2. This was probably a very predictable placement if you watch my channel, but yeah, Pikmin 2 is a spectacular game. It isn't flawless, but the positives vastly outweigh the negatives. This is the game that introduced caves, and I think that these are really fun. They shake up the formula somewhat while still having the general Pikmin gameplay. Caves are basically a series of micro-challenges. Each sub-level takes around 2 to 3 minutes, and it's very fun to go through them. This is also helped by the fact that this game probably has the strongest enemy roster in the entire series. There are just so many inventive enemies that all synchronize with each other, and there's just so many unforgettable designs here. While Pikmin 2 is the hardest in this series, aside from a few select sub-levels, it doesn't really take the difficulty too far. The caves expect you to plan on the spot for them and manage your Pikmin squad, and if you don't do that properly, you do get punished. But planning around stuff isn't too difficult, and the game is pretty fair of what it's asking you to do for these sublevels. The game is also a massive control upgrade from Pikmin 1. In fact, I would say that this game has the best controls in the entire series. It's very smooth to control, they ironed out the Pikmin AI's faults, and this is the last Pikmin game to contain the beloved swarm feature. The Pikmin have the perfect mix here of being functional while also feeling like independent creatures. Similarly to Pikmin 1, this game also has a good story, though it is more cruel this time as Olimar just immediately gets shipped back to this dangerous planet to collect a profit for his company. It is a natural continuation of Pikmin 1, you know, Olimar's just a normal guy and the second he gets back, the first thing he has to deal with is his job. It gives us some good world building as well, and we get introduced to some great characters, such as Louis, while still keeping the focus on Olimar. Similarly to how Pikmin 1 had its own atmosphere, this game kind of has a very hostile and weird vibe to it, even during the gameplay. Someone said it feels like the world was prepared for Olimar and the Pikmin to return this time, and that they're actively fighting back, and that kind of describes it well. We also get the Piccolopedia and Treasure Hoard, where you can observe all of the enemies and get additional dialogue from the characters. These are obviously great additions. Now the game isn't without faults, this is where the cutscene and tutorialization of the series began, and yeah, it's pretty annoying. Especially because some cutscenes pause inputs for half a second after they're finished. If that happens while you're not in a good spot, tough. The overworlds are all fun, but it's clear they were a bit sidelined and yeah. In spite of those flaws, I still think this is a spectacular game and really fun. I just think it's neat. Unfortunately, I don't see Nintendo making a game like this, or even Pikmin 1 again. It's not even just gameplay wise. They've been leaning towards a more safer style with things like writing and graphics, and it's kind of led to an overly sanitized experience in my opinion. They even redubbed a lot of dialogue for the Switch port of Pikmin 2 to make it more friendly, and that's just kind of a travesty. I said at the start of this video that I had this game as a young kid, but I could never play it properly, but despite that, it still stuck with me because it felt vastly different from any other game I had at the time. This game also has 3 versions, same consoles as Pikmin 1. I'd rank them Switch, Wii, and GameCube. Switch, while essentially the same game, makes a lot of weird changes to dialogue, and the physics system is also pretty off. It also doesn't have branded treasures or skippable cutscenes. Wii is basically the exact same as GameCube but without skippable cutscenes, which is a weird choice. And finally, GameCube is overall the best one, mostly due to the skippable cutscenes, which make it much better for replays. But overall, Wii and GameCube are pretty equal. Anyways, that concludes my ranking of every Pikmin game ever. It was a lot of fun playing Pikmin 3 Deluxe Jigsaw Puzzle, that's why the video took a bit to come out, I just couldn't stop playing it. Now if you've watched this video and are thinking, wow, that guy should have his vocal cords rip open with a katana, all of his opinions were utter shit, you should leave a comment and rank the Pikmin games yourself, because I'd like to read that. You don't have to rank all the irrelevant web games or spin-offs, just rank the games you want to rank. If you haven't played Pikmin, then I don't know, rank what you had for breakfast throughout your life. If I ever retire this channel, which I don't plan to do anytime soon, I'll probably do a follow-up to this video where I rank every single Pikmin game I've played, including ROM hacks and unofficial ones. So look forward to that, but that'll probably be a good few years. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe or else there will be 0 Pikmin games at all.